Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Anchore gardening session with the open source team, who are the beautiful individuals you see either side of me here. We do this every Thursday, and it is our opportunity to show some of the work that the team do on our open source tools like Syft, the SBOM generator, and Grype, our vulnerability scanner, two wonderful open source pieces of software. Part of that is going through issues and reviewing pull requests and questions from our users. We'll just crack on, I guess. If you want to follow along, then you'll find all of our code is on GitHub. If you go to github.com/Anchore, you'll find all of the good stuff. There's also a discussion forum, which is based on discourse. If you go to anchor.com/discourse, is a shortcut to this horribly long URL. And we post in there every week when we're going to do one of these gardening sessions. You can also subscribe to the channel, and we also post on Blue Sky, Mastodon, and the other place that nobody likes. And we'll post announcements there so you can find these sessions. I think I did everything. I think I said everything I needed to say. We find that some people don't watch this live, but they watch it tomorrow at double speed. And I also send out a message on the social media tomorrow on the Friday with a link to this, so it's easy to find. Did I miss anything? Anything else I need to mention? I don't think so. Hello, everyone. How is everyone? I hope you're all doing well.
So far, pretty good.
Hello.
Excellent. Did anyone have anything urgent they wanted to mention at all? I do. Two things I'd like to mention, and I probably should have got the pages up already, but I will mention them here. So I wanted to mention this, which is something we recorded earlier on today as a little kind of experiment. And we had a conversation with the developer of a tool called Megalater, which uses Syft and Grype. We recorded it in a Zoom session, and it was our first time doing a webinar in Zoom, and gosh, did it show. But it was a fun conversation, and Nicola is just a wonderful person and good fun and very passionate about open source, very passionate about his project. I've put a link there, or I've mentioned this events page because we're going to do some more of these. And I wanted to reach out to people who have tools that maybe integrate Syft or use Syft or Grype in some way. I have a hit list of people to contact in order to have conversations where they can talk about their open source tools. But if you want to find out when these are going to happen, we've started a little open source newsletter, which you can get to here, an Anchor community newsletter. And this is specifically for news about stuff going on in our open source world. You won't get too many emails from this, and we're not going to sell your email to, I don't know, Elon Musk or whoever. So don't worry about that. We're just going to use it for notifying you of stuff going on that we think you might be interested in related to the open source tools and the open source team. I'll put a link to those in the description underneath the video. If I haven't already, I might have already done that. The video for this will get uploaded to YouTube, to this channel, so you will be able to watch it here probably tomorrow, actually. I think that was all I wanted to mention. Right. Shall we dive into the things that are in the list? I've added a new section, potentially priority issues. Woo! So for each of the repositories, I've added this little table, and I've been experimenting. It's really just a bunch of generated links that have some criteria, like this one is all open issues, right? And there's another one which is I don't know what did I do for that one. Oh, this one is where there's more than a certain number of reactions, little hearts or, if people have pressed the little like emoji buttons and stuff. I'm going to have a play with these because I'm not sure these are the right emojis and stuff to go on these. But I wanted to make a way for us to like focus on stuff, much like Bug Roulette, but in a nice web page. I don't know what I'm saying with critical. What was critical? Where a bug is open and it's got a lot of comments. I think that was it. And it's got more comments than other things, I think is what I put on that under. And probably, yes, and has a large number of people thumbs upping and stuff like that. So I thought I might put some little ways of drawing our attention to stuff. But if there's anything in particular anyone wants to talk about, then please shout. We have the needs discussion stuff. Anything in here? Anyone added anything in here that we would like to talk about? Everyone not want to talk about anything? Okay. Where should we start? Anyone? Bueller?
I put a pull request in the Zoom chat that I have just I am sorry to the person who opened this. I've been assigned to review it for forever, and I've been working on another feature that has totally bogged it down and eaten all my time. So maybe we can do a really short code review right now and just either get it in or get it request changes and
That's a wonderful idea. Thank you, Will. I appreciate that because, sometimes, you get dragged away to other priority issues. And, now is a good time for us to focus on some of these community things. So,
yeah. I can give a quick little background, and then maybe we can just get some feedback from the team. So the background is basically sometimes when there's a vulnerability in a very old project, fixes are backported to like very old versions. So this person in particular reported vulnerability in the Java runtime that has been backported all the way to like Java 8. And they have an image with like Java 17 in it. And one of the like sort of suggestions that could be inferred from the Grype output is to upgrade to Java 8, which is not really a good idea in 2024 when this was open, or in 2025 today. And so the change is to add a like sort of most like least disruptive suggested fix into Grype's JSON output, so that you can see like, hey, this is like, there's a fix, so you can quickly see, because it's not obvious from these versions, like 180 writes, this is that first version entry in the fix there, that 180.421 is the 421st patch release of Java 8.0, which is probably not what you want to run today. And so like, it's not obvious from those what I should do. And so we could add a little suggested field that's just like, hey, you're already running Java 17.0.1. Java 17.0.12 is a very small change and eliminates the CVE. So it adds a little place for Grype to suggest that. So that's the background. And then we can go look at the code really quick, and maybe we can get it in.
Do you happen to have an image that I could run against this locally that kind of like really emphasizes or it shines?
That's a good question. Does this issue have the image in it? I think it's maybe one of the.
I haven't been able to quite find it.
I wonder if we can find one of the like Eclipse Tamarin like JDK images or something, like with an old tag. That might be interesting.
Probably do the trick.
Anyone found an issue somewhere that is there one in the PR? How are we going to test this?
One yet. Yeah, I'm
I
trying
guess
out the Eclipse Tamarind image right now. So
Oh, there's one. Uh,
you got one? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
there's one there. I'll put it in the chat. It's in the comment from Will 3 weeks ago.
oh, good job past me. Thank you for anticipating.
Yeah, well done,
This
Pastor.
need and then forgetting about it and not being able to produce it on demand.
This is the pain of context switching that causes that, I guess. So what's this one? Image includes OpenJDK 17.0.13.11, which is vulnerable to 2025 21502. OpenJDK. Is it going to find it as OpenJDK? OpenJDK. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Boop, there. Okay.
And so you can see that list of
Yeah.
fixed versions. And the user's complaint is that like I think there's exactly one fixed version that's probably a good idea for a person already running OpenJDK 17 to move to quickly to redress this CVE.
Yeah, that's smart. I like that.
I would point out, I think there are a few. I don't think we should be showing downgrades, but I think like in this case, it would be perfectly understandable, like not necessarily just to upgrade exactly to the very next version, but like to 21 from 17.
Sure. But like I think I would be comfortable like moving from 17.13 to 17.013 to 17.014 and be like, okay, unit test pass, ship it. Whereas if I want to like change what version of the Java runtime my app is running on, then there's like, yes, it's generally a good idea to upgrade, but there could be like new language features or like performance concerns. Like I don't know, it just feels like a bigger ask.
It's also worth noting in this particular instance, both Java 17 and 21 are long-term support releases, and 23 is not. I don't know if that's an influence.
I don't think that's actually data Grype has at runtime.
Right.
So I think what Grype is going to do is do a semver sorting and like look for the upgrade that crosses the fewest things, right? If I can upgrade by a patch, that's better. If I can upgrade by only a minor and not a major, that's better. If I have to upgrade by a major, then I have to upgrade by a major. And so, yeah, which is interesting. I think one of the reasons, like I initially was wondering about actually merging this because, like, Grype doesn't have strong opinions about your team's operational posture. Like maybe you have absolutely bulletproof integration testing and you're just going to run on JDK main. And if it passes tests, it's just going to go to prod and that's fine for you. And like maybe this is a, super scary old mission critical 20-year-old Java app that is only ever run on 3 machines, one of which can't be replaced because it was sold to you by Sun or whatever. Like those are different postures, and like Grype doesn't necessarily know which of those worlds you're in, which makes making a recommendation itself kind of a hard thing to do. So the heuristic I think that makes sense to many people is like, taking a patch version feels safe. I've definitely broken things by taking a patch version upgrade of a dependency before, but we can hope that there's some semver.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's doing the reasonable thing. I mean, I think we can argue both sides, and it's really going to be up to. We're not actually taking away the fixes. Like we're really just saying, hey, here's a suggested one, and I think someone can take it or leave it. I think you could argue all sides of this pretty easily. So I think I'm more interested about the PR. So like it looks like we have like the JSON output updated. So like the match detail shows the suggested version of the fix, which is great. It's a really clear way to be able to like pull out the specific version from like the arbitrary version constraint. So I really like that. I think the thing that's missing opportunity-wise in this PR is like there's nothing here that's actually updating the table presenter to like kind of put a star or something by like the one that's suggested. So the most grokkable output should, I think leverage this extra field. But nothing stands out code wise.
Yeah. So do we think like a little star there would be best? Or would be like the line that's highlighted on the screen right now. We want like 17.0.14 to kind of jump out. I guess we could put stars around it. If we're in a fancy terminal, we could do fancy terminal control characters to make it look different. But I think a lot of times we're running in CI, and so it might be nice to have something that's like purely done in printable ASCII.
Yeah.
Can you not just put them in order? Like rather than have them in numerical order, just put the suggested one first.
We did that in the first draft of this PR, and it makes it look like we're bad at sorting numbers and contributes nothing else. It just looks random. It just looks like we shuffled the numbers because we just like picked one in the middle and pulled it to the front. And if you're not already expecting that, it just makes it look like we can't put version numbers in order. So it didn't seem like, I guess, because like in this list, like the first position doesn't seem that special. And like eyeballing a list of numbers that are out of order, just I don't know. I didn't like how it worked. That was my initial idea too.
I mean, to me, I would only want to see upgrades here, but I would want to see all the upgrades. I'm not going to beat this horse too much, but like it seems I would be confused if I only see the immediate upgrade. And I don't really see the value of having downgrades if there are other upgrades. But I mean, the table can, be something different too than like just showing all of the fixed versions.
Yeah.
And that's the trick, right? Is that we're not actually saying that the fix is going to be an upgrade. So that's why we just have the column just says fixes. It's kind of agnostic there. Fixed in.
Right. And even more than that, what this column really is like the thing that's to the right of the less than sign in the version constraint. Right. So these are the upper ends of version ranges, or rather beyond the upper ends of vulnerable version ranges for the most part, right, Alex?
Yeah. Oh, so actually, this is something actually in that. I guess I'm about to mention something unrelated, but like maybe I think Keith, we have to actually go think about in V6 how this presentation changes. So the Grype database schema V6. I'll leave that there. We can move on. I mean, I think just a star next to the suggested one, then call it a day. We could always come back and do something else if it stands out. I don't really suggest like colors or anything because then you just have kind of arbitrary colors and it looks like a Christmas tree.
Right.
So maybe one day we'll come back and do an underline or a bold but I think just at least annotating it with a star is an easy thing to do. So
yeah, and we could say we could, even because the star looks like it's a little bit like it's going to be a footnote, we can put a little footer on the table that says if we wanted to. But star is easy. Let's just do a star. I'll mention that on the PR, and then we can do it, or they can do it, and then we can get it in. So thanks.
Nice. Thank you, chaps. Are there any others that we should? Any other PRs? Are you going to put some words on the bottom of that? I didn't put a name on that, but I'm addressing Will.
Yeah, I will reply to the PR and just say if Yeah.
We do have another one that's marked needs discussion, another PR. While we're here, is this something that we could take a look at?
Sure.
So this is the PR. Oh my gosh, I've lost all my chat things there. Bop. And put this over here as well. Sweet.
Did we talk about this one last week?
Did we? Is there any... Nothing on the issue, but did we... No, we didn't leave a comment since the beginning of December.
I wasn't here last week, so I had no idea. I believe you, Keith.
I mean, I think like the conclusion I thought was that, hey, it's a great idea. Let's output OS like SPDX 2.3 added the primary package purpose. And so we can tag packages as OS. And we're already outputting OS components in CycloneDX, so it just makes it the same.
Was there any, do you remember if there's any comments about like changes needed for this, or, I mean, I'm looking at it, it looks pretty innocent.
I think there was one concern, which was if you run Syft, you get a set of packages. If you run Syft with Syft JSON or the table output or whatever, and you count those, it has, let's say, 10 packages. And you run Syft and you output CycloneDX or SPDX, and it has 12 packages because it's outputting like the OS that we're using as the source. Like it's part of our, a data model that's not a package. I think there was some concern that like those numbers don't add up. That was the recall.
We have I mean, it's not like we're adding a new Syft core package. This is like in the two format model stuff. So it's like it's only going to affect like SPDX. So like, and I'm also kind of assuming that this is, so like when we encode to SPDX and then we decode from that, we're going to purge that package. So as long as we're like kind of symmetrically doing that operation, I think we're okay and consistent with what we've done in the past. Because yes, the numbers won't line up, but we're actually okay with that. For like SPDX has its own like primary purpose setup packages that can be added. We have added in the past, and this is just kind of an extension of that. But actually, I guess I don't see the symmetric when I'm looking at it. Like we should have a like in the two Syft model, a code change here, which I'm not seeing any change in that file, which is looking for a primary purpose operating system and stripping that back out or writing something back.
I think we're dropping them because they're not package types that we like. We're checking specific package types on import, so at the very least it would be dropped. But it definitely should be reading that data if we're writing it. I don't know if it's something else that's doing that.
Got it. I guess the only comment I could think of is to kind of verify that in a decoder test, have like a really simple SBOM that only has one package, like the OS one, and integer gets dropped. And maybe there's a test for that already that we've added in the past, and I just have to go look. Yeah, I mean, this looks like a great PR. I could add a comment about the decoding stuff on here, so.
That would be awesome.
And maybe I could help out with that, but not today.
Sweet. Okay, so you're going to leave a comment in that. End of topic?
Yeah.
Nice. Do we go back to open issues? There are definitely none that we haven't already talked about.
There's an open PR in Syft that's been there for a while, and I actually don't know why it hasn't already tried to make it end. I mean, other than the typical reasons, like, we don't have enough time cycles, etc. It's PR 3156. It's the add support for copyrights and schema updates.
Oh, I think the only holdup that I had myself with this was that we were adding placeholders for the data, but we weren't actually populating it from anything. And so it seemed odd that we were just adding data placeholders without something that was populating it, at least in one spot. I don't know if that's different, if that's changed though.
So wait, say that one more time.
At one point, I don't think we were actually setting this from any, like in any of the catalogers. Like there was just a field that was added, and it was added to like serialization on the CycloneDX side and etc. But like we weren't actually setting it anywhere.
That makes sense. I mean, and actually, if we even back up further, like, is this core change? Just on package copyright. Here we go. Hold on, that's the test. Copyright. I mean, so this is adding a new struct for URL author start year end year.
You guys are right next door.
I mean, the only other thing I can think of is if we're trying to like track copyright in files, and if there's like a line numbers. I don't know if I like that idea at all, but if you were asking about, like, we don't have any place where we catalog the stuff, and we have an open issue that is all about cataloging SPDX identifiers at the top of files, as well as getting licenses at the top of files. And I can imagine copyrights just being right up there with this. And so us tracking, I found this copyright in this location, keeping track of lines. I guess that wouldn't go in the copyright structure. It would probably go somewhere. It'd be like a file location or file coordinates.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to Chris about this the other day. I think, well, I know at least one use case for this information is definitely you've got a Apache 2.0 generic form of the license. And at the bottom, it says copyright XXX year YYY. Yeah. But a specific piece of software, like even, in particular, like OS packages, they'll actually carry sometimes the actual version of the Apache 2.0 license that the upstream publishes, which will have the XXXYYY filled out with a name and a year range. So in those cases, like I was talking to Chris about, like, maybe we ought to consider actually extracting this information and putting it somewhere. It looks like I didn't know about this PR. This is the somewhere that it would be put.
And I guess that gets to what Keith was saying too, which is like, well, we don't have any catalogers that would have been doing this, like would have been trying to extract out from source material somewhere and put this in. Do we have an existing cataloger where this makes the most sense to start with?
So, I mean, in the use case I described, I feel like the license extraction, I don't know if that's not its own cataloger, but certainly like Debian packages and RPMs, you can get this information as metadata attached to the software.
Yeah. It's a little bit like the file metadata cataloger, right? Because we can just say, at this path, we found this copyright notice, which is sort of metadata about the file.
Yeah. And that's always been the idea for, like, is to be able to put like license references, not just on packages, but on files. And and maybe that was another thing that came up here, like doing the same thing here, like being able to say that on any individual file, I want to be able to express a copyright, which this PR does not account for.
So, for example, if I understand you right, like, have I got Cowsay installed? No, this is the wrong machine. If I've got a Debian box and I do all the files, there's the copyright file. Does that say which files? I think it does, doesn't it? Yes, these files, and then this copyright. So it's very explicit, and I'm pretty sure it's part of the Debian packaging guidelines that you have to have this nailed down before it will get in the archive. Same for Ubuntu. So like every specific thing has a copyright. So like Debian packages would be the probably best place to look, really, because they're so like painfully like pedantic about this in a good way.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the other things I was thinking is every now and then, especially like old open source code, there's like a block comment at the top of the file with copyright information in it as well. That's what I was thinking is a lot like a file metadata cataloger, right? It's like we found, whatever libfoo.h, and it has this copyright block comment at the top of it. It's kind of interesting metadata about that file, but I can see how this is sort of like, it's nice. There's like a machine readable or quasi machine readable like copyright file that dpackage knows is part of this package, and like that's cool. That's stuff we can work with.
I definitely agree with what you said, but I mean, I think that like packages make sense to potentially have copyrights, and files make sense to potentially have copyrights. And, depending where stuff's coming from, like, let's say we fetch data from the internet, from Maven Central, maybe that information's there, but like we didn't find a file. So like both places sort of need ways to track it.
And like today, like for license, we have a license definition in the file package and the license definition in the package for that reason, because we have file catalogers that operate solely on files that track. The goal is to track just by licenses. I don't think, and we don't have a cataloger that does that yet, but we've kind of done it with like digest, et cetera, and all those definitions live in the file package. And so I want to say that this PR, I don't know if it makes sense. It kind of goes back to what Keith's saying, like, well, we don't have a spot that's actually cataloging this stuff yet. And so maybe, because I have those two sides I'm wrestling with. Like on this one side, I kind of want it to be ideal, that idealized state of like, well, files and packages should have, like, we should be able to attribute copyrights. But on this other side, which I think I'm leaning towards, which is, well, let's do that incrementally. This PR is going to be the increment of just package copyrights. And to what Alan's saying, like, well, what Alan and Keith are saying, like, well, let's start with one, and Debian is probably a really nice one to start with, the dpackage cataloger.
Yep.
So maybe we don't try to expand out the copyrights stuff into file, and we can maybe help them expand out the cataloger for at least dpackage to use this, and that will influence if like the PR is right. I mean, the third thing here is that we say we don't need a cataloger, and this is really just supporting Syft convert. Like folks can bring documents with copyrights and be able to convert it into some other document shape. That's kind of where the PR is at right now. I'm kind of in favor of nudging it towards, let's get a cataloger to do this. I don't know what other folks are at right now.
I think, yeah, I think that was, you kind of hit my point on the head, which is like, if we don't have any examples of using it, we don't really know for sure that we have the right thing. I mean, it seems pretty good, but like, who knows what comes up, what else we might need to do until we actually get something implementing, and filling that data out.
I think this PR has been open for a while. I think it would be in our best interest to help this person by doing that first step, like getting that cataloger updated. We could ask them. It might be that they don't respond because it's been so long. But I kind of don't want to see this one like die on the vine, so to speak. So I guess we could leave a comment saying, see if they're interested to update the Debian cataloger. If not, we can donate some time.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'd say check in with Chris, because he was definitely going to look into exactly this, right? Like adding some copyright extraction to the licensing work that he's been doing.
Good point.
Okay. There was another one. I think, Will, you had another one you wanted to look at?
Yeah, I dropped another PR I haven't had time for this week in the chat because it worked so well last time. So if that's okay with folks. This is an interesting one. So for some context, Bitnami is a company that makes like Docker images that are sort of like ready to go. Like you can get the Bitnami Postgres image and it's like patched and you know what's in it. It's like, I don't know. So one of the things that they do, they've been trying to work with us on adding support to Bitnami explicitly in Syft and Grype. And Syft will generally find a lot of the stuff they put in their images just because they're, it's often a Debian image with like, well-known packages in it or whatever. But they have their own vulnerability feed, and we want Grype to be able to match against that vulnerability feed. So if you point Grype at like the Bitnami Postgres image, we check their vulnerability feed for their Postgres installation, which makes a lot of sense, right? Part of our philosophy is that like the people who made the thing know more about it, right? Like if we're scanning a Debian image, we will consult the Debian vulnerability database with greater care than like NVD, because Debian know more about what's in a Debian image than NVD. So in order to do that, we need a cataloger, right? Syft needs to be able to find Bitnami images, and Bitnami actually put SPDX SBOMs of their images in their images at a predictable path. And so this is basically this cataloger sort of started out as a copy paste of the SBOM cataloger. One of the things that can do is if you turn on the SBOM cataloger, you can find if Syft finds SBOMs, it will parse them and include whatever's in them in the results. So the special case of the SBOM cataloger that specifically looks for the Bitnami SPDX SBOMs to try to figure out what Bitnami packages are in there. And then if you scroll up, that comment that was just on the screen is actually what I'm about to talk about next. So we had some back and forth where like we have a binary classifier where we're like, hey, this binary file looks like a Postgres server binary, so we're going to rip a version out of it. And then it looks like so it looks like we found Postgres twice in there. So what we've decided to do is let the Bitnami package like override by file ownership the binary package. We do the same thing if you had like an RPM or a D package. Like if we find a binary that looks like curl, but you also have a D package curl that owns that path, we're just going to report the D package because it has better versioning info and stuff than the binary classifier. It's more reliable source of data. So we're doing the same thing. So we went back and forth a little bit on how to achieve file ownership data for these SBOMs because they don't really have a lot of it. And there's a long comment about that. And then I believe they have done that, and now it deduplicates correctly. And they just tagged me to see if I'd seen it. So maybe we can take a look at how it works. But this would be nice. I think a lot of people use these images to, have sort of a like
quick and easy
maintained
bootstrap of a
right,
application.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to run it on my own infrastructure, but I want sort of like an official build, if you will, or an official third-party build. So yeah, we're glad to add this, but I wanted to review this. It's been back and forth for a long time, and then both the person working on this and I have ended up away from it. So I hope we can, maybe we can even merge it today. We can definitely look at it today.
Yeah, I mean, I think my question from this one, if I remember right, one of the last things was, how do we really know? And we were really looking to them solve, like, how do we really know what should be considered a owned file for these bitnomi packages? Like, we know that there's this convention that, like, underneath opt bitnomi, then like the name of the package, that everything under there is owned by this package. But I thought we found cases where there were files underneath that directory tree that were already owned by something else, and so we were like, don't know what to do.
Yeah,
Am
so
I misremembering?
we ended up going back and forth and saying, if you scroll up a little bit, actually, I think you can see Juan's response here. I think so. I think we basically said, so what we decided to do is that like there's a main package, right? Like this is the Bitnami Postgres image. So our main package is PostgreSQL, right? There's other stuff in here, but that's sort of the main package. And so I think we said that like if there are files, there's some file ownership information in the SPDX SBOM, and then the rest of it we are putting like we're going to say that the main package owns it. Like if nothing else claims it in their SBOM, the main package owns it. I believe is the implementation we ended up at.
So I got it. So like they're kind of looking through. Okay, I might have implementation questions, but like they're looking at the rest of the world, say, anybody own this? And if not, that's included
No, I
as a
think
main
they're
package
looking at
file.
the rest of their SBOM and saying, does anybody own this?
Oh, the SBOM specifically.
That was my understanding, because there's some file ownership relationships, like SPDX contains relationships in the SBOM, but then everything else seems to be possibly considered part of the main package.
Okay, interesting.
I thought this was an approach we talked through in some detail. Maybe I'm missing something here.
This is one whole illness to go, so my memory is patchy for this.
What do you mean by which?
Okay, I'm looking at the last couple commits now, because the last two commits have, so everything before the last two commits I think was reviewed, and like everything was okay except for the deduplication of the file ownership stuff. So the last two commits is where like I think the new stuff is to review.
Ellen, in the top left of the current view, see where it says changes from all commits?
Oh yeah.
You can click that and do
like a shift click.
You can shift click, and I think you only want the two most recent ones.
And then the next one. Yeah.
Neat.
What area is what access? Oh, you just left click and thing. were second on one. Correct. Well, it's probably like the air. I didn't want to use so.
Oh god. Okay. Oh yeah, I had like totally forgotten that reading from the Dakota gas bomb relationships, looking for contains was going to be a component here. That's neat.
Oh, I see. It gets it from the SPD. Oh, okay. So the source of truth for a Bitnami package is, container is the SPDX that they ship inside it, right?
Right. And then there's a little bit of hand waving about the files owned, which is where there's a bunch of files that are like underneath where they put their main package that are not owned by anything else explicitly in their SBOM, and those just end up owned by the main package. And that's maybe not perfect, but I haven't thought of a better thing.
Got it. Nice.
I think the thing that might be that I just thought of when Alex started questioning on this is that every now and then we'll find something in those paths that we can get good metadata from. Like maybe there's a Go executable in the like opt bitnami postgres bin. There's like some Go utility or something. Then like that's going to have packages in it that have a location. And that location is going to be owned by both the main package and that Go binary, maybe, or have some relationships there that might be a little confusing. But
Yeah, it'll be between, and it depends on the catalog or what's going to happen. But I think that would be too difficult to try to solve in this PR, because that would be another instance where we, like, when all the catalogers are done, do we take additional action after the fact and try to filter results or relationships from that?
right, and so you'd end up with file relationships that say basically like we found like this Go Postgres util at like opt bitnami PostgreSQL bin cool util, and it had these packages in it, and then also that file path is owned by the bitnami PostgreSQL package, which is like maybe a little bit redundant, but it's also not crazy, right? Because that is true. Like why it's there, right?
Yeah.
So okay, cool.
I feel good about this PR and the state it's in too. And looking through it, it looks sane for what it's doing. So, and it looks like the tests are there. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, well, a nice full test. I mean, I'm a thumbs up on this. I'd have to like unclick from like the 2 commits and like maybe review the whole thing again just to be like totally happy. But like I think it's there. What do other folks think?
I mean, from what I've seen, it looks good.
Yeah, these folks have been super helpful to work with too. They're happy to sync up even though we're in very different time zones, and so that's good. I'm hopeful we can get this in pretty quickly then. Alex, maybe you and I can like after the call go through it in detail real quick, just so we don't like lose this context and you
Sure.
know, like so. Cool, awesome. Thanks for taking a look at that on the stream. I hope it wasn't too boring for people watching, but it's part of the
No.
community stuff we've been trying to get to. So
Absolutely.
We
we've
like
only got
code.
a little bit of time left. Can I steal some time to get some technical support from you chaps?
You tried turning it off and back on again.
Yes, I have. So, context. The context of this is there is a I can't type. Is it U-blue? No. What's it called? U-blue OS. Okay, so
Is it an immutable Linux distro?
yes, this is a set of immutable
Yeah,
Linux
there's
distro
like
called they're not distros, images,
Sorry.
which are built by this project Bluefin. It's mostly run by this guy George Castro, and he's an amazing person, and a community, and they had an open issue to add S-bombs. But there are a few issues. Here's the open issue, and I could probably put it in the chat. There and there. And so they investigated this last year. But the S-bombs are enormous because the containers are enormous because they contain lots of stuff. It's a Linux distro that's got loads of. It's an image of a Linux machine that's got a lot of stuff in it, right? And also, they can take a long time to build, to create the S-bomb. Now, I've been noodling with this to try and figure out how we could do this. And one of the problems is their containers are very large, and they build them in CI. It's all like cloud native stuff, so it's all built in CI in GitHub. But the containers are so large that they have to run a thing called rechunk, which like gets rid of stuff, squishes it, uses some intelligence, flatpak, deduplication, all that kind of stuff. And the result is if you Syft scan one of their final containers, we end up finding files in /sysroot, and we have no idea what they are, because I don't know whether it's like symlinked or files moved around and deduplicated, and it's actually quite hard to figure out what they are. So what I thought we could do is get in earlier in the GitHub action and scan the container before they rechunk it. And then you could gate on that with, Grype or something like that. So there is I forked their repo, which I will show you here, and I will put in the chat. And I added, there's a lot of steps in here that builds a whole bunch of containers. It's in a matrix, they're building loads of them. And I added this section here based on some work that some other people have done. I thought we'll do this. And so they have, while they're building Podman, that they're building the containers in, and there's a step that lists those images that are the result of the build. So they're built, list the images, and then I thought we configure Syft with some environment variables, and then we use the GitHub action to scan the image and generate an S-bomb before they then rechunk it and move all the stuff around and make it harder for us to do an S-bomb. That was my plan, right? So here is the action running in my fork. And it buffs, so it like generates lots of images. So it's doing this multiple times. It takes a while. You can see here it takes minutes to build this image, which is still like not bad. It does the list images, and what it does is sudo podman image list. And so the one I want to scan is that one there, localhost bluefin stable. So in my config, I'm using image, localhost, and then it gets, because there's multiple images, it gets those from these variables, right? And so down here, you can see executing Syft, and it runs Syft with localhost bluefin stable, because that's this image here, right? And it'll do something different for each of them. And when it runs Syft, it can't get, or it gets connection refused from Podman. Now, I've noticed that in their action, they do, when they list, they do sudo Podman image list. Now, it's possible that the user that this is running as is unable to access the Podman daemon because they're not in the right group or whatever it is, and so they can't get to it. Is that like basically it?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it because they're doing on 101 there, systemctl start user Podman socket. So that socket should be accessible for the current user. So, I mean, so maybe a quick gut check would be, I mean, like do as a Podman ping, just to prove that, like, hey, does can the Podman? Well, okay, the Podman CLI is not talking via the daemon. You could curl that socket slash. I can't remember the exact URL, but there's a slash ping endpoint just to prove, like, hey, does it work? And to prove like the systemctl side of things is set up right. I think proving that locally on your laptop and then proving it in CI are two like useful steps just to make certain you have the curl set up right, and that'll prove that theory. I mean, also, I'm actually wondering if it's, so here this is saying like run containerd sock, and I am wondering if the user socket is somewhere else. And so like this literally is the wrong one.
I think.
Yeah. This looks like the one.
Yeah, connection refused to me doesn't indicate permission. It's like the Podman one, the one that's highlighted.
But connection refused because the Podman can run with a like a local host, like it can run TCP instead of socket, instead of like a Unix socket.
Yeah.
And connection refused, I think if you curl localhost on the wrong port, you get connection refused, right? But
yes, the fact that they're doing sudo Podman image lists makes me twitchy, because that makes me think, well, are they doing that because they know that you can only access it from a privileged account, in which case we're going to fail, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of backpedaling and kind of agree, because run containerd sock, I mean, that I think is owned by root.
But that's from a different era, right? So we tried to pull it from containerd and we tried to pull it from Podman.
Oh, you're right.
And so like the containerd, right? We got an EPERM on the containerd sock, which honestly, like maybe we don't even have permissions to check it if it exists. Maybe we should have gotten it. But the like connection refused, like the second line. And one of the things that's making me suspicious is there's like the setup Syft one is exporting environment variables, and it exports like a default pull source to Podman, but then we still tried everything.
Yes, I added those based on some questions I asked you guys earlier. So that's why I added like these two.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. But are those like, I guess I'm surprised that given Syft source image default, like that, I'm surprised that given line 104, we tried containerd and Docker. That makes me one. Go ahead.
Well, I've actually also never tried SBOM action and Podman in CI. That would be a flavor I've never done.
Woohoo! Okay.
Is it worth just installing? Like, one of the things we could do to eliminate variables is you could just curl the Syft. Like you could just like wget a Syft binary and untar it, and just and like that because then you don't have to wonder what weird things the action is doing.
Okay, yeah, I can
But-
replace this with a, go and get curl, go. And in fact, I think in a previous iteration of this, they were doing that. They weren't using the action. They were manually curling using our installer, I think, and getting the binary.
And I'm not even saying that, like, I'm trying to be careful. Like, I'm trying.
We're not drawing
for
conclusions.
debugging. I
Yes.
think this makes sense.
Yes.
Just to like run Syft natively. I actually still think we should use the action in the end and like prove it works, etc. And if it doesn't work, we really want to know why. I'm just trying to say, like, in simplifying the debuggability here, it's like, well, it's easier just to run Syft right now. So
we could also just try to make a dumb GitHub action that runs like SBOM action on Alpine latest from Podman, just to like watch it work, right? Just like turn on Podman, run Syft Alpine latest, and just like watch that work, right? That would be another interesting, because like having a giant image involved and like have it like
slow.
But I don't know how they're setting up. I agree. I'm really weirded out by the pseudo Podman image list, because that's the classic, like, I set up Docker wrong and my user can't talk to the Docker socket. So I have to sudo Docker everything. And now I'm doing crazy things as root. And I'm like, I'm not saying that's what's going on, but like pseudo Podman image list makes me a little worried about the setup. But like it means I'm missing something, because it should be set up so you don't need that.
But it is a remote machine.
Well, and I feel like that's like yet another reason just to like not use the action initially, because then you can just do sudo Syft.
Yes.
Exactly. -- from Podman and just like, did it
which
do
would
a thing?
debug something. It would answer a question. It would certainly answer a question.
I do want to step back just for a second and ask the question. We have an SBOM cataloger as well. I mean, it's one thing. I don't understand the Bluefin build process probably as well as you do, Alan, but it always occurs to me when we have control, like we're trying to build an SBOM and we have full control over the build process from end to end. You don't necessarily have to, and it's all operating system packages, maybe, or in this case, like whatever, it's not like some random collection of software that we can't control because we're the ones building it. It's just something to point out. Maybe there's another approach rather than scanning the container images. If there's an earlier stage where we have access to the metadata of what's installed, to generate an SBOM at those earlier stages against the actual material, save that information in the form of an SBOM, and then at the very end, use the SBOM cataloger to generate the final SBOM. I'm not saying that's the perfect answer.
No, that's a very good point. Like,
something
getting in a roundabout here somewhere, like during the image build process before it actually like pushes it into the local Podman, right?
It's just another option. So since we have end-to-end control, like right after, like let's say this was Debian. It's not, but let's say it was. Right after you build a bunch of Debian packages and install them, you can inquire the varlib Debian directory, get the SBOM, store it, and then your container image would have that metadata in it directly rather than having to do it.
That is a very good point. Brilliant.
So I maybe raise that as another option.
Yes. Brilliant. I have loads of options. I appreciate all of that input. Thank you for being my technical support for the final few minutes and over the final few minutes. I apologize. I've kept you all a little bit too long.
That's interesting.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, you can watch this every week, and we will continue doing this kind of stuff because it's good fun and we get stuff done. Thanks, all of you. See you all next week, and thanks, everyone who's watching. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Take care,
everyone.
everyone.
Take care.
See you, folks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.